Alright, today we're going to talk about solving two-step equations. So these are just like solving a one-step equation, but we are doing it with two. So the first thing we're going to do is solving a two-step equation is like using the order of operations but backwards. So what that means, order of operations, parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. So the first thing we're going to look for when solving a two-step equation is either doing addition or subtraction first. So let's take a look at this problem. We have 4x minus 8 equals 12. So just like solving a one-step equation, we always want to isolate the variable and get it all by itself and figure out what it is. So just like we said, we want to do backwards order of operations. So the first thing we're looking for is either subtraction or addition. So I have a minus 8 right here. So that's the first thing I want to get rid of. So step one, we want to add or subtract the term that's alone. So this is the term that's alone. So now you got to ask yourself, what is the opposite of subtraction? So the opposite of subtraction is addition. So golden rule of algebra, always do to one side, which do to the other. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides. So when I add 8 to both sides, that gets rid of that. And I am left with 4x on the left side, and now 12 plus 8 is 20. Now, once I've done that, I've now got a one-step equation. And so now, just like backwards order of operations, we looked for adding and subtracting first, and now we're looking for multiply or divide. So I have 4x, and again, when two things are right next to each other, it means multiply. So the opposite of multiply is divide. So I'm going to divide both sides. So divide or multiply to isolate the variable. So divide both sides by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. We could write 1x if we wanted to, but the identity property multiplication says anything times 1 is just itself, so we're just going to write x, and then 20 divided by 4 is 5. Now, most important step, just like in one-step equations, we always want to check our stuff. So wherever I saw in my original problem that x, I'm going to put a 5 in, and remember those mean multiply, so we always want to check our answer. So we plug the 5 back in for where our x was. So I have 4 times 5 minus 8 equals 12. Order of operations tells me to do 4 times 5 first, so that's 20. Now I have 20 minus 8 equals 12. 20 minus 8 is 12. 12 does equal 12, so I know I got that right. So then we're good on that one. All right. Now, sometimes you'll see it, we are solving with a negative sign. So we might have a question that looks like negative x over 4 minus 5 equals negative 3. So just like before, we're always looking for addition or subtraction first. So I have a minus 5. So we solve the same way to get rid of the addition or the subtraction sign first. So the opposite of minus 5 is plus 5. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. When I add 5 to the left side, I'm just going to get negative x over 4, and then negative 3 plus 5. Those are different signs, so when we have different signs, we subtract the 2, and we keep the sign of the bigger number. So 5 minus 3 is 2, and we had more positives, so I'm left with a positive 2. So now I have negative x over 4 equals 2. Now, this is where it gets a little bit different. Whenever you have this negative sign, you're always going to multiply or divide to isolate the variable. Now here in red's the important stuff. It says if you have a negative, we just keep it with the thing that you are multiplying or dividing by. So since this means divided by 4, and then we have this negative sign out here, all we're going to do is we're just going to multiply by negative 4. So that'll get rid of the negative sign, and I'll be able to just solve for x and get x all by itself. So once I multiply both sides by negative 4, I'll be left with an x over here, and now I have 2 times negative 4. 2 times 4 is 8, and since I have only one negative sign, that means I keep it negative. So I have x equals negative 8. Again, always check your work. So plug in negative 8 back into the x. So now I have negative 8 over negative 4 minus 5 equals negative 3. Negative 8 divided by negative 4. 2 negatives make a positive. So I have 2 minus 5. 2 minus 5 is negative 3. So negative 3 equals negative 3. So we got that right. X equals negative 8. Okay? All right. So these are just another example. So this is asking what is our first step. Our first step is always to subtract 5 from each side because we were looking for the opposite of either plus or minus. So subtract 5 from both sides. And now I'm left with an x over 2 equals 11 minus 5 is 6. Now I'm left with x over 2 equals 6. This means division, so the opposite of division is multiplication. Okay, now I'm left with x just on this side equals 6 times 2 is 12. Now again, always want to check our work. So we have x over 2 plus 5 equals 11. We said x equals 12, so wherever I see an x in my original problem, I'm going to plug in the 12. So I saw an x right here, so I'm going to plug in 12 over 2 plus 5 equals 11. So the only thing I changed is I changed the x to a 12 and kept everything else the same. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 plus 5 equals 11. 6 plus 5 is 11. So we know we got this question correct. Alright, let's look at this one. We want to look for whatever we need to get rid of first. So we have a minus 4. So the opposite of that is plus 4. Now I have 4y left on this side equals 16 plus 4 is 20. This means multiply, so the opposite of multiply is divide. 20 divided by 4 is 5. Again, always do our check steps. So we had 4y minus 4 equals 16. So plug it back in. Again, you need to make sure that when you plug that 5 back in, that you put the parentheses around it, because right now that looks like 45. So we need to make sure we put the parentheses around the 5. So that means 4 times 5 minus 4 equals 16. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 minus 4 equals 16. 20 minus 4 is 16. So 16 equals 16. So we know we got that question correct. Alright, so just like before, we can talk about balanced scales. So right now we want to learn how to solve a two-step equation with a balanced scale. So right now this is saying, you look at it and say I have 3 x's here. So 3 x's and 4 1's. So I have 4 1's. Remember, our triangle always means equals. And I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 on this side. Now, when you have these two next to each other, we want to combine them to get a total. Remember, combine and total, those mean add. So this really means if we were to write this out, it would be 3x plus 4 equals 10. Now, just like you were solving it, we always wanted to look for adding or subtracting first. So in order to isolate these x's, all you're doing is getting rid of these 1's first. So golden rule of algebra, so that's what you did over here. You subtracted 4. So golden rule of algebra said if we do something to one side, we have to do it to the other side. So if I took 4 away from the left side, I need to take 4 away from here. So minus 4. Alright, now just like we showed here, so all that's left is a 3x on this side. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 1's on that side. Now, all these are, to figure what this is I have 3 x's and I have 6 1's. So that means I need to figure out how many groups of these 1's I need to be put into to get 3. So I need to get 3 groups. So I'm going to have 1 group here, 1 group here, and 1 group here. So now I have 3 groups of 2. So x equals that. So all I did was just divide those up. So divide by 3, divide by 3. So x equals 2. So that's what it would look like if you did it solving with a pitcher or a balance scale. All right. Go ahead and try this one. When you come back, we'll go ahead and do it together and make sure you got it right. All right, welcome back. So we have 6n minus 2 equals 10. Add 2 to both sides. I have 6n equals 12. Divide by 6. Divide by 6. N equals 2. Now, one way you could do this is, say you were working on this on a SOL test or a test and they gave you multiple choice like this. If you couldn't remember how to solve these, you could always just plug in, just like we do on our check step, to see which one worked. So we'll start with A. So 6 times negative 4 minus 2 equals 10. 6 times negative 4 is negative 24. Minus 2 equals 10. So negative 24 minus 2 is negative 26 equals 10, and that is not true, so you know that's wrong. Alright, so let's try the next one. So we have 6n minus 2 equals 10. We're going to plug in negative 1 this time. So 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. Negative 6 minus 2 is negative 8. Right, negative 8 does not equal 10, so we know that's wrong. Alright, so we'll move on to the next one. 6n minus 2 equals 10. We're going to plug in that 2, so 6 times 2 minus 2 equals 10. So 6 times 2 is 12, minus 2 equals 10. 12 minus 2 is 10. 10 does equal 10, so you know that one is correct. So that was a little bit more work than we had to do, but again, that's another way that you could do it if you couldn't remember the exact way to figure it out. So it's a great thing with math. We can do a couple different ways. All right, let's take a look at this. All right, so again, now I got 4 problems here. Go ahead and pause it. We'll come back and check and make sure we did it right. All right, let's take a look. Now, this is combining like terms, so this might be a little bit complicated right now, but just in case you were curious, since you have 6x minus 2x, those both have a common term in them, so we can combine them. So we have 6x's, and we want to take away 2x's, so now all that's left is 4x's. Right, now that equals 28. We're going to divide both sides by 4, so x equals 7. Right, over here, opposite of positive 5 is a minus 5. Right, we want to keep that with it. That minus sign's in front of it, so that minus sign follows the 2 down. And so now that equals 6. Divide both sides by negative 2. So x equals negative 3. Right. This says 7y minus 6, and I got equals 50, so we're going to add 6 to both sides. So I got 56 equals 7y. Divide both sides by 7. So now I get y equals 8. And then over here, we're going to go plus 3, t over 3 equals 12. We're going to multiply both sides by 3, so t equals 36. Alright, so we made this cool little thing, so we can drag this down and check to see if we got it right. So x equals 7, so that was right. X equals negative 3, got it right. Y equals 8, got it right. And t equals 36. Nice job, super smart. Alright. Go ahead and try these ones. Pause it, and we'll come right back and give it a whirl. Alright, let's take a look. So minus 3, 4x equals 24. Divide by 4, x equals 6. Minus 3, x over 7 equals, we could use state change opposite here if we want, which would make it negative 2 plus negative 3. So that's going to give me a negative 5. So times 7, x equals negative 35. Over here, plus 4, 6m equals 28. Divide by 6, oops, I got that wrong, because 14 plus 4 is not 28. It is only 18. Even math teachers make mistakes. Alright, so still dividing it by 6, so m equals 3. Over here, plus 6, so now I have half x equals 16. Alright, so now this says half x equals 16. So these still mean multiply when they're right next to each other. So if I divide by a half, remember, dividing by a half, we don't really like dividing by fractions, so we can change it to multiplication. And our multiplicative inverse property says if I can change this division to multiplication, I flip the fraction, so divide by half is the same thing as multiplying by 2 over 1, which is the same thing as 2. So this is just saying 16 times 2, which is x equals 32. Alright, let's check if we got it right. X equals 6, negative 35, 3, and 32. Nice job. Alright, we can also do breaking these down with word problems. So in this case, we're going to highlight the stuff that's important and then write out a word problem and then solve it. So this says you and your family are taking a ski trip. Your family paid $2,860 to rent a house for 5 days. So for 5 days, it cost you $2,860. Oh, and you got 4 ski passes. All right, you were charged $1,500 to rent the house. How much was each ski pass? So all together, we paid $2,860. Now, we got 5 ski passes, and we had our how much we paid for the house. All right, so now all together, that is what's going to equal our total. So minus 1,500, minus 1,500. So we have 5p equals, this is going to be a 0, a 6, a 3, and a 1. So now I have 5p equals 1,360. And when the 5 is right next to the p, that means multiplication. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So divide by 5, divide by 5. So my passes for the day was $272. Okay, so that's just what they said here. Number of ski passes was 5. We didn't know the cost of the ski pass. We know the cost of the house, and we know how much we totally paid. All right, so there you go. Passes were $272 each. All right, let's take a look at this one. You were ordering roses that cost $1.25 each from a flower catalog. You have $24 to spend. So in total, you can spend $24. It costs $4 for shipping, no matter what the size is. It wants to know how many roses you can order. So we don't know my number of roses, so I'm going to call that R. Oh, I'm sorry. Got that mixed up. We know that would be over here. We don't know the number of roses, and that's times the cost of each rose, which was $1.25, plus the shipping, which was $4, equals the total amount of money I can spend. So we don't usually write the R in front, or the variable in front, so I'm going to write 1.25 R plus 4 equals 24. All right, so we can go ahead and solve that. Minus 4 to both sides. Now I have 1.25 R equals 20. When those are next to each other, it means multiply. So divide both sides by that. So now I get R equals 16. So I can buy 16 roses. All right. All right. So let's take a look at this. I want you to answer these 2 things. This says, what is the value of b? So we need to solve for b. Isolate the variable. So add 3 to both sides. Now I have 4b equals 8. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. B equals 2. So explain why your answer is correct. So the way we would explain that is by doing our check step. Because if we end up getting 5 as our answer, then we know we did it correct. So we're going to plug 2 back in for there. So 4 times 2 is 8. Now we have 8 minus 3 equals 5. 8 minus 3 is 5. And 5 equals 5. So since 5 equals 5, we know that we got it correct. All right, let's try this one on our own. See if we can write out our equation and then solve it. So come on back when you're ready. All right, let's take a look. So we got a babysitter charges $12 for transportation and $10 an hour. If she made $42 on the job, how much money did she make? So we know she charges $12 to get there. So to drive. She charges $10 an hour, and she earned 42. So she got $42. Now, no matter what, she's going to charge $12 to get somewhere, and she's going to charge $10 for each hour. Now, we don't know how many hours she works, so we're going to write 10H. H represents hours. So these are going to add together. So minus 12 to both of these. So I got 10h equals 30. I'm going to divide both sides by 10. And h equals 3. So she worked 3 hours. Alright. Alright, so that's it. I hope that helped you with solving two-step equations. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to ask.